Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. So here we are for another fantastic week of questions. We've got plenty to get through today, so we'll jump to them in just a moment. But before we do, don't forget YouTube things, like, share, subscribe. But most importantly, if you like this show, if you like the other shows that I do, got loads of content on this channel, all coming at you completely free of charge. We have Kendo Rant like we're doing. We have the feedback videos, put one out yesterday. And I have more instructional content on the way too. I've said this for a couple of weeks now. I am working, well, I have a kata video in the works right now as well. So there's plenty on the way. And if you like all that and you want to support it, you want to keep it coming, shop at KendoStar.com, the best kendo equipment website in the known universe, in the human history of mankind. KendoStar is the best. Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place, all right? I own KendoStar. So, of course, I'd say that. But everybody agrees. Okay, so shop at KendoStar. You get great equipment, great service, and you get to benefit from this channel too. I get to keep doing this. So, yeah, KendoStar.com. Right, okay, first one. Hello, Fish Sensei. I hope your week is wrapping up nicely. Yep, we're getting there. One of my sensei says that we should always be looking for things to learn from others, not just from our literal sensei, but from our kohai and students as well. He said that he's our student, but that through the act of watching us and teaching us, we're also his sensei in a way. Are there any particular valuable lessons that you recall learning from your kohai and or students during your kendo journey? As always, thank you very much for the rant. I recently placed an order for a Myrmidon set and I'm very excited for its eventual arrival. Thank you to you and your fantastic team. Thank you very much. So you're gonna love the Myrmidon. I guess you must have ordered like a custom door or something, and that's why it's not with you yet, because normally we ship it out right away. But okay, so yeah, yeah, I mean it's quite a common saying, isn't it, that everybody is your teacher in a way, and yeah, there are things that I think I've learned over the years from my sort of kohai or students. Lots of things really. It's not the sort of thing, I guess, straight. I mean, in terms of like things that I've learned about my own kendo, I'm learning all the time because I think there's a really important thing that was once said to me by a Japanese sensei that was in Japanese is warui aite ga inai. So there isn't a bad opponent. So you shouldn't blame the opponent. Like you couldn't hit for example, or couldn't hit because their timings are weird, or because they're you know, they're not doing it properly or something like that, or they're dodging or blocking or whatever. You know, blaming it on the opponent is the wrong way to do it. Instead, you have to use it as a way to learn and improve yourself. So I have that quite a lot, you know, when you know, I'm practicing with somebody who's perhaps less experienced than I am, but they have kind of a different timing to perhaps what I'm used to, or a different way of moving or something like that. Then I have to learn to adapt, and you know, it means I might receive strikes during the keiko. And it's really hard not to fall into the trap of kind of just letting your ego take over and say, well, this person's junior to me, so if I receive the strikes, it's because they did something wrong. When it's not that, it's because I haven't necessarily, you know, been able to adapt properly or perform, you know, deal with the situation. Also, like when I was like in my last year of Japan, I was really training towards passing the 6th Dan exam, and I knew that I really had to get to grips with the idea of taking the sen, the initiative, so that I could make effective dabana waza or perhaps oji waza, and I practiced a lot at high school. A lot at local high school. So obviously, you know, the kids there were, a lot of them were, you know, nearly 20 years younger than I was. Um, but you know, their experience is sort of second or third dan, and very, very fast, much faster than I am. But I was able to use practicing with them to develop my semi. Because I say this a lot actually, you know, it's all right practicing with the high level sensei, but of course your semi doesn't work so effectively on those. You have to sort of start in a, you know, start to work on it with people who it is going to work easier on, so that you can start to recognize how the timing works, and then you can sort of you know, start to get it to work on higher and higher level partners. But of course in the beginning you're not going to be able to just get your semi to work against the high level sensei. So yeah, I think there's a lot in that regard actually, and of course as well from a teaching point of view, you know, I learn a lot about how to teach Kendo, and that's always developing as well, because you know, people interpret things differently, and I have to keep adapting to how I'm explaining things so that it works the best, I guess. Next one. Do you know how much practical transfer there is between police training and Kendo and actual police work? I'm sure there's plenty of relevance in terms of confidence and taking control of situations and being sure of oneself in a tense moment. But is it more of a historical thing that's being kept going as tradition, or the Japanese police practically applying the waza that they study? I don't think they're practically applying. You mean when they arrest somebody? I don't think they're applying the waza from Kendo all that much, to be honest. They have a separate thing in the police called Taiho Jutsu, which is a kind of martial art that's for the police, and it's about how to carry out arrests, and it deals with various sort of interactions that they might have with you know, people who they'd be trying to apprehend if they're carrying different weapons and stuff like that. And it has a competitive element as well. There's tournaments for it. It's kind of cool. So yeah, but they're not like, you know, going out and using Kendo on the streets. I think there's more of a cultural significance to the police having Kendo as one of the budo that they have to participate in. They have to participate in either Kendo or Judo. Is compulsory. I don't think it's necessarily I think it's more that it's considered a requirement for police officers to participate or practice Budo, rather than they want them to go out and be able to use Kendo or Judo on the streets in when they're arresting someone. They have a different art for that. Okay, next one. Right, so hi Andy, I'm 19 and very new to Kendo, 5 months in, and I've been enjoying it for the most part. Good. The main thing I'm struggling with, which would alleviate every other struggle, is the age that I started at. I'd like to carry on into many high-level Shiai and be the best that I can be, but the fear that I am too old can be overpowering. As it feels like if I started many years ago, I wouldn't be as limited by age. To be frank, it's a mentally draining sensation and feels like it was already futile and late from the moment I even knew anything about Kendo. Also, I'm thoroughly grateful for the Myrmidon Bogu set from KendoStar. The second person already. It's very light, yet extremely protective, and I no longer get bruises or aches from the club armor. Nevertheless, I still go to as many keiko as I can, run and practice the video every day and try and perform as best, as well as squeeze any and all feedback I can to make sure I'm polishing out bad habits. Thanks again. Okay. So you're worried that at 19, you started Kendo too late to be able to participate at high level in the high level tournaments. No, you're not. Okay. I started Kendo when I was 19. All right. Now I didn't win the world championships. I didn't, you know, but I participated in the world championships and I participated in tournaments in Japan. And, yeah, admittedly, I struggled to compete with police officers who were professional kendoka, for want of a better term. They were doing Kendo every day for you know, five hours a day. I didn't have the opportunity to do that. Perhaps if I had, I would have been able to compete with them if I'd been able to do that from the point at when I sort of moved over there. But there's plenty of people that were quite good and started much younger than I did, that I was certainly on a par with, and I was able to, you know, in tournaments in Japan, which frankly, some people might not like me saying this, but like a local tournament in Japan that's like that the police aren't entering is much higher level than pretty much any tournament outside of Japan that, you know, that I've ever seen anyway. I'm sure there's some exceptions, of course, but like, you know, the World Championships, yeah, the Japanese teams there, Korean national teams there, but and maybe some of the tournaments in Korea, I don't know anything about those, so I'm not going to set up there. But I'll at least say sort of, you know. But you know, I did all right in some. I got a couple of medals, which is all right. I never won one. Came second a couple of times, once or twice. But you know, but as soon as, and I'm talking about tournaments that have got like, they're like for the regular people, so for not professional kendoka. But if you put like, even then, you know, you have some people in there who are super good. So what I'm saying is it's all down to you. It's all down to you. Starting as a kid can be an advantage, but it doesn't have to be. There's plenty of people that started older that went on to become very, very good. I'm not saying I'm one of those people, by the way. What I am saying, though, is that I started at 19 and I was able to catch up to my contemporaries who were also working people. And I was pretty much on a par with people who were a similar age to me and a similar grade to me. I you know, of course, there was a lot of people a lot better than me and a lot of people that weren't. But to say that it's too late for you to compete at a high level is just not true. It's just totally, totally down to you. All right. You can catch up, but it means you have to work really hard to do it. And it sounds like that's what you want to do. So I wish you all the best. I think you can do it, but don't think of yourself as too old at 19. 19 is a great age to start. Great age. You know, of course, I sometimes think, oh, I wish I'd started when I was younger, but I don't wish I'd started when I was 5 or 6 or 7. I don't wish I'd started like that at all, to be honest. I probably wouldn't have had the same sort of love for Kendo that I do if I'd done that. I came to Kendo at the right time for Kendo to become what it was for me. And I think you should look at it that way. And I think that you can overcome any disadvantage there might be to have started a few years later than some other people. But it doesn't mean that you can't become a fantastic kendoka. So I really think you can. I really do. All right. So do your best. Okay. Okay. Next one. I'm trying to break a habit of ducking my head or flinching when an opponent is making a strike to my men. Any ideas to stop this habit? Well, there's a couple of things. It's largely practice. You just need to get better. And as you practice more and develop more ability, you'll gain more confidence in your kamae, and you'll gain more ability to perform ojuwaza, and you'll gain more ability to understand the timing of when your opponent's about to strike. So a large part of it is experience, all right? A large part of it is experience. You know, you need to, it's a fact, right? And of course, someone's trying to hit you with the shinai. You shouldn't just sit there and let them strike you necessarily. So it's natural to try and avoid that. But yeah, flinching or ducking out the way, it's not always the best tactic. So it's better if you can do something else. But to get to a point where you can do that, it's going to take time and practice so that you can develop the confidence in your kamae and your seme in order for those sort of opportunities to become apparent to you. Yeah. So persevere with it, be patient, and I think you'll get there. All right. But don't, you know, I'm not going to just tell, you know, anyone could just say to you, well, just keep your posture straight and just don't care if they hit you. But that's not really right, is it? It's not really right. I mean, you could do that, And it's not the end of the world if you let them hit you, if you really want to, you know. But at the same time, you don't want to train yourself into the mindset of just letting yourself get hit for no reason. So there's a balance to be struck there. Hello, Andy. I'm preparing my 4th dan grade and concentrating on good shodachi whilst, which has a criteria for Yuko Dototsu. When I practice with my 4th dan partner, I'm trying to feel the moment to semi ashi and make the first strike. But always when I'm looking to take the center, I notice my partner is starting his motion first, which causes me to be late and strike off center since he's taken it for his first strike. I'm overthinking this too much, and should I be trying to semi or take the center quicker? Or does this come from bad habits at striking, since rarely this interaction results in taiatari but passing through one another? A sensei recently told me to do lots of Imen practice without me telling him this problem. Maybe he noticed this problem and is this advice to fix it. Thank you very much and have a good day. Greetings from Chile. Okay, so right. So the shotachi we talked about, shotachi last week, I think. It's the first strike that you make. So, right. What's happening here is you're with the partner, you're trying to take the initiative, try to start with your semi, but as you do that, they're already on top of you. All right. So there's an element of this that's too slow somewhere. Probably you're overthinking it. All right. At this point. All right. You're probably overdoing it and you're sort of watching for them to react rather than sort of not trusting in your semi, but actually focusing on your semi, and focusing on your strike. So it's difficult, but I think the advice of practicing more Imen is a good advice. I think that would be useful for you. But I think the main thing to do is probably just step back a little bit, try not to think too much, and just watch and be ready in your kamae immediately. And as you start to do the semi, if they start to strike, then you know you start to semi like this, right? You start to semi like this, and you're in control of what you can do. So you start to semi like this, and if you feel like they're gonna strike sort of immediately, just strike a split second earlier than you think is time. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's fine. And if that doesn't work, then instead you could maybe notice that they're coming and try the ojiwaza instead, or degote or something like that. Just experiment a little bit. Don't be too fixated. You know what I mean? Like at 4th dan, what they're looking for is just that there's a reason for the strikes going on. You don't need to have this sort of, you know, full understanding of like sen and semi-ashi and stuff like that. It's not. You're probably going into it a little bit too deep than you need to. I think you just need to concentrate on making sure that you're not just throwing random attacks out there, and that the strikes that you are attempting have got some sort of logic behind them. Yeah, some sort of DI. Okay, that's what they're really looking for. All right, and I think that practicing the Imen is definitely a good idea, because it'll sort of help you gain that sort of feeling for the right timing and the right setup. Yeah. Give that a try. How do you transfer body weight into a strike? My force seems to stop at the torso. It's not a sashi strike, but certainly not making as clear a sound as needed for a convincing ippon. Would be great to know the principles of the mechanics behind it too. So you need to transfer your body weight using your left leg. So when you're in kamae, your left leg needs to launch you forward. And one sensei I respect very much wrote an article for a Kendo magazine, and in that he talked about how you should it's pushing your body forward in the same way you might pass a basketball. Now I don't play basketball, never have, so I don't know the accuracy of this, but if you were throwing the ball forward and stepping forward in the same way, the body travels that way, and you really need to do that as you launch from your left leg. All right, so the tame, the power has to be all in your left calf, your left leg, in your kamae, and then as you push forward, make sure your heel's not too high, so you're not pushing up, that you're pushing forward, keep the kamae as long as possible, and bam, with the fumikomi. All right, it's really about using your left leg. All right, it really is, to keep your hips square and parallel to the floor, almost, all right, almost. Hey Andy, hey Andy, it seems the general sentiment is just to do what the sensei says, even though it doesn't quite feel right. When do you switch to doing what feels right instead of what the sensei says? For example, my senseis are quite insistent on the slap of the fumikomi being at the same time as the strike landing, but I know that's not the intent behind Kikentai no Ichi. Will this create any bad habits, or should I forget what I know and put my all into following what my sensei say? Right. So this is a bit of a contentious one. I get it, right? But I don't think that what your senseis are saying is that different to what you're probably imagining or what I've said in the past. I've just got a bit of a different way of explaining it. Now, the conventional teaching or traditional teaching on the sort of Kikentai no Ichi is that you should strike at the same time as you stamp. And that's generally true. It's just what I've said in the past is that I consider the launch and the stamp, the fumikomi and the fumikiri, to be a sort of single motion rather than two separate motions. And I don't want to break that into two separate motions. So I consider that should happen as you strike. And what we're talking about is, you know, if you watch it from the outside, there's no real discernible difference. If you watch it in full speed and normal from the outside, from a third point of view, there's no discernible difference between the time between the strike landing and the stamp happening. All right, and I think that that's probably more likely what your senseis are getting at as well, because, like I say, the conventional wisdom or the conventional teaching on this is that you stamp and you strike at the same time. And that's pretty much, when you even watch the high level players, that's what it looks like is happening when you watch it at full speed. Just now we have this sort of modern sort of ability to slow things down, and we can see that in general, if you really break it down into split seconds, there is a slight difference in time, and that I think that's a useful thing that can help us understand how to properly engage our left leg more, so that we can properly use our body to strike when we're doing our fumikomi. And it's difficult, and I understand I could have caused some confusion by sort of bringing it up perhaps, but I still do think of it that way. But in this specific instance, I don't think what you're saying and what your senseis are saying and what I'm saying is probably all that far apart, because I don't think your senseis would see, like, if you got, let's say you got maybe a Hachidan sensei into your dojo and they did the men strike, I don't think your senseis are going to say, well, their strike and fumikomi is not at the same time. I don't think they're going to say that, right? So even though if you broke it down into slow motion, they're sort of, their shinai is landing a split second before their right foot is landing. But when you watch it all together, yeah, it's happening pretty much at the same time. So I think my sort of thing on that is that it's just the way I've started to think about it or explain it, is that the stamp and the strike should be a single action. The stamp and the launch should be a single action that happens in a unified manner together with the strike. So that's my first point on that. But of course, there is the time when, you know, the sensei is going to say something that isn't necessarily adding up to the way that you understand things, or whatever, or is maybe a little bit different to what a different sensei says. It's not often the case, but, you know, it does happen. And in which case, yeah, whilst you're with that sensei, you do what they say. Just do what they say, and then when you're not with them, you know, either take on board what they said, take from it what you can and apply it, or the stuff that you don't think is applicable to you, then just store it, and maybe it'll come relevant later, or maybe it won't. Yeah, it's a tricky one, but definitely whilst you're with the senseis, you do what they ask you to do. But I think in the case you describe, I don't think it's so different to what we've talked about already. I think probably I might have just caused a bit of confusion with the way I've explained it, perhaps. Wow, this is a long one. Okay, this is a long one. Right. Okay, let's fire through this. All right. So, okay. So, Handy, first, thanks for your thoughts regarding the recent asthma question. First, for now, I'm going with the assumption that I'm just not in shape enough, and I'm trying to do slow, deep breaths between drills instead. Okay, so that's about the question we did last time. Right. Few questions. Let's do these one at a time. First one is regarding the angle I'm supposed to be swinging the shinai. When I was first starting out, I moved the tip of the shinai down in an arc shape, but it seems more like I'm supposed to swing it down a little and then kind of push the whole shinai down and forwards at the same time. I've gotten some corrections about it every so often, but I think the corrections regarding this are getting lost in translation. I checked a few of your Road to Shodan videos and I didn't see anything regarding this unless I missed it. Could you just please explain it? The shinai should move in an arc. The shinai should move in an arc, all right? It should go up. Where are we? Here. It should go up, down, and it has to swing in an arc. It has to be circular. That's required in order to get the force in the kensen. That's why you swing it from the left hand, so you can transfer the force to the kensen as it swings in a circular motion. All right. If you don't want to swing it like this way, this way, not this way. I can't get it in the thing. Yeah, but it should be an arc. It should be an arc. All right. Number 2. Here we go. Right. This is regarding shouting. They're always telling us to yell "ya" before we run our drills, and then during keiko at the last practice, one of our sensei was trying to teach me and some of the other students about timing, at which we should be doing that during the keiko, but it wasn't a structured thing. It was just in the moment, and as I'm sure you know, it's hard to hear sometimes when you have the men on and everyone is yelling. So it was hard to make out what he was saying, and I missed most of it. I really don't want to ask him about it again, but unfortunately I don't even know who this sensei is because I've never seen him before. I'm pretty sure he was just a visitor from another club due to a different city name on his name tag. Could you explain it? When running a drill, we shout "ya" right away and then take a step forward and then go for the hit. I was basically doing that during the keiko too. Shout "ya," inch forward, go for the plunge. But if that's not right, what's the correct timing in regards to when I should shout "ya"? Is that part of semi? It's not part of semi. Semi is something different. You should shout "ya." You shouldn't shout "ya" or do your hase when you are in the cutting distance. All right, you shouldn't do it then. All right, so you can do the toma "ya" and then start to do the semi. You can do at the shokujin no mae, when the shinai just touching's a little bit too far for the cutting. All right, it's kind of like it's in between toma and isoku. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you can shout "ya" here, but when you get to here, you don't want to shout "ya" anymore. Okay, this is when you need to be concentrating on striking. All right. Now, if you're a beginner, this shouldn't take too long. All right. You should make a decision and strike whether it's successful or not. Next one. Last one for this group. Okay. This is a question about you. You're already living in Japan when you started Kendo, right? Nope. How was your Japanese when you first started, and how did that affect your experience learning Kendo? I'm fluent enough that I can understand most of the instruction and get clarification easy, but I don't. But there's some times when I really have trouble understanding some specific feedback. I was curious if you had the same experience. I also passed my recent Shinsa and got bumped up to Ikkyu. So now I get to attempt for Shodan in June. Thanks for all your feedback and answers to this point. It's truly a big help. Good, good. Okay, so no, I did not start Kendo in Japan. I was not living in Japan when I started Kendo. I first went to Japan when I was Sandan, and I only went there for a month or so, and then to practice Kendo. And then I moved to Japan when I just got my Yondan. So I'd been doing Kendo for like, I don't know, what's that, like 6-7 years, something like that at that point. And I didn't speak Japanese very well. Okay. I was married to my wife who is Japanese, and she taught me some Japanese. I knew some basics, but I wouldn't say I was even conversational. Let's put it that way. So I learned Japanese in Japan. So I didn't understand a lot in the beginning. So yeah, it's very difficult. And I think it's very difficult for foreigners to begin Kendo in Japan. I've seen a lot of people struggle with that because I think the senseis probably do have a bit of a hard time communicating the beginnings of Kendo to adults who don't have, native Japanese. Because the beginners for them are normally kids, and they just get them to copy. So it's a bit different. And adults don't necessarily learn in that same way. We have questions, we ask things, especially Westerners. So it is difficult, I think. So yeah, I didn't have the same experience. I didn't really understand Japanese. I picked it up. I was able to understand what was going on though within the first few months, because I was lucky enough to be sort of surrounded by people that only spoke Japanese, and especially at the dojo, nobody spoke English. So it was yeah, it was trial by fire. But yeah. Okay. I developed trigger finger from practicing Kendo a couple of years ago. I went on a long break because of another injury and I've recently returned to training. My finger was fine during my break, but the symptoms reappeared after my first session back. I tried changing my grip and gripping a lot softer, but neither helped. Any advice on how to tackle the issue? No idea, I'm afraid. I can't. I've never had that issue. I don't know what even causes that. I've got no medical knowledge whatsoever. You're best talking to like a physio or something like that, or a doctor, some sort of medical professional. Sounds to me like it is likely to be caused by sort of gripping the shinai probably too firmly, maybe when you're striking or whatever. I know you said you tried to grip it softer, but maybe there's still some tension in there that you're perhaps not aware of. Happens a lot. But I think you need to speak to someone that really knows what they're talking about rather than me. Sorry about that. During Keiko today, there's a question about Zanshin and Yuko Datotsu in Tsuki waza. What's the correct way to perform Tsuki waza to get the Ippon? So Zanshin for Tsuki, generally after making the strike, is to return to the kamae, and I generally take some distance, okay, and then move back, but retain the kamae. Just like in the Bokuto ni yoru Kihon waza keiko ho, is probably the best way. It's best not to hit the shinai on the floor. It's a bad habit that lots of people do. I've done it before too. It's something that you kind of fall into, but it's best to avoid that. I try not to do it these days. But yeah, that's basically it. If you watch some videos, if you go on YouTube, search some like ski Ippon reel or something like that, you'll get a good idea of what it should look like. Okay. Last one, equipment for teens. This is a good question. I have a 13-year-old son and we started Kendo together this year. Fantastic, congratulations. So my question related to buying gear for teens, he's just about to go into a large growth phase. So how should you size? Go higher? Is there like chin pads for the men and inner gloves for the kote? So this is a fantastic question. We get asked an awful lot. How do we go about getting the Bogu, especially for juniors, or the equipment? All right. So let's start with the Bogu. Right, the Bogu, from let's say small kids from 7 up to around 12. They generally need like a specific kid size Bogu, all right? Maybe below 12, maybe up to about 10. They'll generally need like definitely like a kid size Bogu. Usually their heads are too small for the adult size ones, and definitely the kote do tare are too big. So usually they need like a kid size one. But what you can still do is, because you want one, like my kids both do Kendo. They both started when they were 7, and they're now 13 and 15. And when they were 7, they got a Bogu set, and I bought one that was a little bit big. And what we did is we put a men pad inside. There's a pad that goes inside the men. And then as they grew, we took the pad out. And then they used it through to being about 13. And then once they get to 13, sort of 12, 13, what you can do is same sort of thing, really, especially for the men. We can supply it slightly bigger. The best thing to do is not to order it in a bigger size. You're better ordering it with us in the sizes that you actually measure, and then contact us and let us know that order is for a child that's 13 or 14 or 15 and you're worried about growth room. Once they hit sort of 13, 14, they might get taller, but their men's size doesn't get a lot bigger. All right. And the men is going to stretch quite a lot as they use it too. So you can get the Bogu that's going to be suitable from when they're about 13, that they're going to be able to use until they're adults, all right? And again, what you can do is just add a little bit of space. We can put a pad in that you can take out as they grow, all right? And then as they grow, you take the pad out. Then if their face or their head continues to grow, the men will stretch together with it, and there'll be enough in it for that. So that's how you deal with the men. It's really not a problem, and it's something that parents worry about, of course, as you do, yeah. But you know, at 13, yeah, we can sort that out, no problem at all. Kote, again, we'd probably just sort out kote that are just a little bit on the large side, so there'd be a little bit of room in them at the beginning, but yeah, it definitely grow into them. And similar with the do and tare as well. So the main thing, right, is give the measurements correctly as you have measured them. Don't add to them, all right, because it will complicate things if you do that. Then get in touch with us, or get in touch with us first before you order. It's probably even better, just in case, right? And let us know that it's for a teen of that age, and we will organise the growing room, all right? For the men, you want a men pad. I think there's an option on our website, and if you get in touch with us beforehand, we'll guide you to it, but there's an option on our website for a removable men pad. So you get one of them with it. That'll take up the growing room. And as they grow, you can take that out, all right? And then we'll leave growing room in the kote and the do and the tare as well, all right? And then you'll have a Bogu set that at their age, they'll be able to use, you know, until they're adults. So that's what you do when you've got a kid that's younger than that, from sort of 7 upwards. We do the same sort of thing, and we get them something that lasts them through till their early teens. Then we do the same thing again, and we get them through to being an adult. All right. So you do get several years out of them. It's not like when you get them a pair of trainers or something, or sneakers or whatever you call them, and you know, and they wear them for like 3 months and then they can't wear them anymore. So with the Hakama and Kendogi, it's a similar sort of thing. When they're sort of teens, it's not so easy to do it. You know, unfortunately with teens, yeah, it's like any sort of clothing, they do tend to outgrow them quite quickly. But what you can do is you can get, with little kids as well and with teens, you can get a slightly bigger size, and you can sort of tuck the sleeves up this way, you see, like that, and then just put a stitch in that way so that the sleeves get shortened. It'll be baggy and stuff. And you can do a similar thing with the Hakama. You can sort of hitch it up, or you can roll it over to do that. And then of course the shinai is the only thing that's a little bit of an issue, but the shinai, you know, the shinai is sort of consumable anyway, and they'll be able to use them at 13. They're going to be using a size 37, and they'll be using that until they're sort of 15, 16 anyway, so you'll get a few years out of that too. All right, so I hope that makes sense. But you know, if you're in any doubt whatsoever, just get in touch with us, mail at KendoStar.com. There we are. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for all these wonderful questions. I hope you have a fantastic weekend filled with Kendo. And I'll see you next week. Shop at KendoStar. Bye-bye.